Hello, welcome to the next LockDown podcast, continuing on with this marathon of weekly podcast stuff to stop us from being bored.
We knew we'd be back.
Yeah.
I think we ended the last one of like, we'll see, but we knew.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Like, even with the rules that have come in recently with like social bubbles and that, it's like, it still makes no difference.
Well, yeah, and again, it's like, obviously we could stop at any time we want. It's our choice to do this, but yeah, we kind of enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
I don't want to say kind of, like, it's...
It'll do.
We enjoy doing it.
It'll do. We tolerate each other.
Yeah. We keep our distance.
You're covering up on your mic again.
Oh, fuck, sorry. Yeah, we keep our distance.
That's better.
Yeah, it's obviously... When we got Backlash this Sunday,
yeah,
so
got that to review.
A relatively normal podcast coming up in the next few days. So yeah, hopefully after Backlash, we might have one more of these, and then we might go back to normal. But again, we never know.
We don't know.
We say that every podcast.
Yeah, we do. Know. So yeah, usual, like, subscribe, find us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Music, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the lot. And it's me to start, isn't it? There's no deaths, is there? Not that we...
No, I mean, I was going to say we can dedicate it to the NHS again.
Yeah, absolutely.
By COVID, and we could say, actually, we could go, dedicate to the unfortunate protesters that got fucked about, because police suck. And,
but to also balance it, that some police have been unfairly beaten up as well, to kind of balance that situation.
On the other side, dedicated to the police that have just got the bad end of the stick,
absolutely,
because of just the stigma attached to them, or dickhead protesters. Yeah, we're dedicated to the good guys.
To everybody that's struggling at the moment, we dedicate it to you.
Yes. So we dedicate it to ourselves.
To the entire country, basically.
Yeah. Okay, off you go when you're ready. Start.
Right, first question for me is, who do you think will be the one to eventually dethrone Adam Cole?
Baby.
Can't not do it.
Did you watch Takeover in your house?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I did enjoy it, and again, it might be because of the current climate, but I thought it's one of the weakest takeovers they've had.
But it's still one of the strongest pay-per-views of the year.
Yeah, I loved the In Your House idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great idea. And they went old school. Maybe they could have done without the DX and the computer thing. I thought that was a bit cheesy.
Yeah, but so were all the adverts and everything. They were all like tongue-in-cheek. So, because the
bit.
first one, I was just like, what the hell's this? And then I did it again and again. I was like, oh, I see, it's part of the theme. I forgot.
But the opening logo thing, it used to be back in the day like the World Wrestling Federation for over 50 years and stuff. In fact, they came up NXT for 5.5 years. We've been like, okay, we'll go balls to the wall with this. But anyway, that's fine. Yeah, I enjoyed the show, and I genuinely thought of all nights that Velveteen Dream was going to win. I just thought it was his time to take it. But they've obviously got a lot more faith in that. No putting knock to Velveteen Dream, but Cole's just rocking it. I mean, he's had the belt for a year. I'm not bored of his title reign yet.
No, but it's going to be getting close soon, so I think they need to start the ball rolling.
Yeah, if they're not careful, it's going to become like the other Becky Lynch reign of like, okay, it's time to drop it. With what I've seen recently, I think Karrion Kross.
You generally think Karrion Kross is going to be the one to do it?
Yeah, I think he's going to just dominate for like a couple of months and just reach the top of the mountain quick. I think they're going to put all the chips behind that guy.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a pretty good shout. I mean, the one I kept thinking of was Keith Lee.
Yeah,
just because of how great he is. I mean, I think he needs a championship, and but I mean, then again, if it doesn't end up being him, I think Keith Lee could eventually be the one to topple Karrion Kross.
I don't think it'll be that long before Keith Lee's called up.
Nah, I need him I want him as an NXT men's champion before he gets called up. I can't just have him leave in the mid card.
Yeah, yeah. There has been a lot of people that have been called up from NXT to the main roster
who haven't been champion.
Riddle.
Yeah, and some have done okay, others not so much. See, I was discussing this with Zach, my brother, for those that don't know. He just doesn't see Velveteen Dream as NXT Championship material.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I do so much.
I don't think he
can
was ready.
see him
I
being
don't
champ.
personally think he was ready at In Your House because I don't see Adam Cole losing in that kind of a match. But if Dream was champion, I'll be all over it. He was a great North American champion. I think he'd be a great NXT champion. It's just picking the right moment.
I totally agree. I think I can just see it. Like him,
he's
like
such a
being king of
unique
NXT.
character.
Yeah, and I can see it with Keith as well. But Keith is so over, and he's putting the North American Championship over as well.
Yeah,
that
true.
He doesn't exactly need it. So when Keith gets called up, it would. In my head, I had this like story or just a booking of like it wouldn't surprise me if the next takeover is Karrion versus Keith Lee. Karrion takes the North American Championship, and then the next takeover he takes the NXT Championship as well, and he's just got both belts. Because I think for the next 2 years he's going to be just a monster of NXT, just swatting people down. Because to kick the shit out of Ciampa in the way he did, and Ciampa's like way up there on the NXT roster. They've got to have a lot of faith in Cross, and I think they executed it really well.
Yeah, I do as well. It's like he didn't tap out, he passed out, so yeah, that was all great.
Yeah, and
so,
I think you've got something in mind for next champ.
What, for the next NXT champ?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably will be Karrion Kross. It seems like it's going that way, and I'm not against it at all as long as they push into the moon the right way. And then so far they're doing really well. It's just that me personally, if I had the choice, I would say Keith Lee would be a great one to topple Cole because he's such a great babyface and Cole's such a great heel. It's just that nice classic storyline that writes itself. It's the good guy finally overcoming the bad guy and dethroning this guy that's been in charge of the division or in charge of the entire roster for over a year. And it's just like, we're so behind Keith Lee because of how awesome he is, that if he's able to topple Adam Cole, it's just a massive coronation. It just melds everything together so nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind it at all. And another direction they could go, they could have Keith be the guy to dethrone Cole, and then Cross be the guy to dethrone Keith.
Yeah.
In what time frame, I don't know. And I'd like to see Keith win the championship when there's a live audience there. But yeah, I will see. Again, it's one of those. We've circled back to we don't know when, but we'll get an audience at some point.
Eventually.
Yeah, it will just add the atmosphere back that we desperately need right now. Is it me?
Yes, so question one from you to me.
Yes. I take it you've seen at least one of the posters for Backlash with Randy Orton and The Greatest Showman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I had pretty much the same reaction as everybody else of like, all right, you're trying to push this as the greatest wrestling match ever, which is already a mistake.
Yeah, it's like, spoiler alert, it won't be.
No, and even if they go, it better be, it's like, it's so much pressure.
Too much pressure, especially on someone that's only just come back to the fucking roster.
Yeah, I said this to someone, like, don't get me wrong, I might watch it, and I might by the end of the match go, holy shit, that was the greatest match ever. But it's like a 1 in 10 chance.
There's no way. Happening. It's like lightning in the bottle. It's so hard to get.
Yeah. But yeah, the poster anyway, Orton's head on top of the Great Showman thing.
Mm.
They obviously went with a comedy effect, which just fell flat.
Yep.
And then I thought, if for an upcoming special or pay-per-view, whatever, if AEW did that, so something similar, like had the inner circle, but their heads on, like, I don't know, this wouldn't happen, but just throw it out there, like the YMCA, but it's all of the inner circle's heads, as opposed to the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I think we'd find it hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, this is it. This is the thing. I don't know. It's all the same kind of comedy. It's very tongue-in-cheek kid comedy.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And yet, AEW has succeeded at it, WWE aren't. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because it's just a trendy thing to just go, to WWE, fuck you? Or do you think there's something else there?
I honestly think it's because AEW have just managed to build up their characters enough where it makes sense when they do stuff like that. Because of the Inner Circle, there's a little bit of goofiness with certain characters and fun things that they've done in the past, so that if they did put that kind of a poster up, you still laugh at it because it's all part of the gimmick. The reason that the poster for Edge and Orton doesn't work is because at no point during any of their promos or anything like that have they done any kind of tongue-in-cheek or jokey thing about it that warrants that poster being made. They've been really deadly serious and everything, so why would you offset that with a comedy poster? That's the thing. It's the it's the contrasting topics, and it doesn't make sense. That's the problem. Is like WWE could easily knock it out the park like AEW would do, but you need to build it up as the same kind of feel, the same flavour, and it's not. The match doesn't have the same flavour as the poster. That's why it doesn't work.
Yeah, they haven't protected the stories or the characters for this because of that one thing. Because if people knew going into WrestleMania 25 that Shawn Taker was going to be the greatest wrestling match ever, if you had the story exactly the same, and I'm really into this, I'm ready for this, and you saw a poster of Taker and Shawn with a Greatest Showman kind of thing, you'd be like, it instantly take me out of it.
It ruins it.
Yeah, you've taken the build-up and seriousness and just the whole I'm so ready for this anticipation out of it with a stupid joke. Like, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Plus, also, like, if they put the greatest wrestling match ever on the tagline for Shawn and Taker, would it have been the same? Because there's going to be at least 50% of the fans going, well, it's not going to be, is it? You're not going to be able to live up to it. And people will stubbornly stick by that. So that will naturally get that reaction. So it will just go down in history as another wrestling match. This is why it's going to fail, because you're just giving too much to the match, and it's too much pressure for the people, and people are just instantly assuming, you and me included, well, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever, because why would it be?
I bet you any money on Vince's head, because, again, I think we've said this before, he would never admit AEW a competition to him.
Yeah.
But they are, and he knows that. So in his head, he's like, well, we need to promote something for fans to want to watch us instead of them. We'll say we've got the greatest wrestling match ever. But to me, that's a fuck you to us of the current things of, like, once again, we're going to tell you what you like.
That's exactly what it is. And this is the reason why people check out, is because he's telling you this is going to be that. I was like, no, you can't tell us. We decide what match is good and what match is crap. It doesn't matter what you think or what anyone else thinks. The fans decide whether they like a match or not. And it may not agree. Like, we think that the greatest match ever is Shawn and Taker, but other people might disagree. The point is, it's an opinion. It's not a fact. And that's why those taglines fail. Because it's down to your own opinion and what you think about a match and what you perceive as a good match or a good storyline. I might think a great storyline in Game of Thrones works, but then other people might think, no, that's awful. I hate it. It's all about opinions. And that's why the tag doesn't work.
If we were saying this to Vince now, he'd go, well, I can't put the greatest wrestling match ever, hopefully. So what do you want me to do? Like, don't do it at all.
Don't do it at all.
Who have the tagline?
Don't have the tagline. Just have Edge versus Orton round 2.
Or the final showdown or something like that. I just don't get the logic behind it.
Just because there isn't any.
We've kind of gone off track from the comedy element.
It's because there isn't any. It's that simple. There isn't any logic. It's Vince just going slowly and more completely insane.
I think as well, it's AEW from the get. They've only been around a year, but they've established themselves as we're the thing that's different that you've been looking for. We're more balls to the wall, gritty, mature audience based. But they, from the get-go, said, and we're going to goof about. We're going to have, like, Orange Cassidy and stupid jokes like that.
So they've been doing it from the start like that, so you buy into it a little bit more. But with WWE, that you can't expect us to take you seriously and as a joke, all in the same storyline.
Yeah, it came out of left field. It's like, from the get-go, WWE's been built as a serious company of 95% of the time serious feuds and go from there. The thing is, as well, if Orton was already a comedy character, it might have worked. But again, it's not.
He's never been a comedy character.
No, it's so it's using the comedy at the right time and with the right people.
Yeah.
AEW are doing it, WWE aren't.
No.
And it's there's a space for comedy in wrestling, but
you got to pick your moments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's why WWE's comedy is kind of going like AEW. Then AEW isn't piss yourself laughing stuff,
but it's not just a nice kind of dad joke type thing that you just enjoy.
It hits the mark.
Yeah.
I mean, at the minute because of lockdown, the Inner Circle are doing the bubbly bunch.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. I'm not laughing out loud, but I'm smirking.
But you still laugh. Yeah, it's like a little skit from The Simpsons or something like that. It's not something I'm absolutely crying with laughter, but I'll do it and I'll laugh going, that's a funny little joke.
Yeah, it did what it said on the tin. It amused me.
Yeah.
And that's it. Where with WWE, it's kind of like looking at that poster like, I'm just feeling embarrassment for the company, not amusement.
I'm embarrassed about how long I'm hanging on to this company.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Right, so my second question is, this is probably going to lead into another rant, I reckon. There's a lot of rants going on lately. Do you ever think that WWE are going to ease off on the constant push of Charlotte Flair, or is she destined to be rammed down our throat indefinitely? Because I'm getting sick of it.
I think we said this before. From the early days, someone's had the idea of she should be a 16-time world champ like her dad. But they seem to not get something we've spoke about a lot recently. They're not getting the longevity of it.
Mm.
They're going, let's get her 16-time champ as quick as possible. It's like, she's only been wrestling in the company, what, maybe 4 or 5 years?
5 years, yeah, about that.
Yeah, you've got so many more years to do that. Because you could go, you could go like maybe in the next 2 years, she's now a 16-time world champ.
Then what?
You're going to go, now what do we do with
Yeah,
her?
then what?
Yeah,
she's going to have more championships, and then you say she's better than her daddy. And it's...
Well, yeah, that's it. Is it like, oh, we can never give her the belt again now, which means pretty much her career's over. Not saying championships mean everything all the time, but you get my point.
No, they don't. But they seem to be dead set on they can't not have her in a title feud. She's becoming like a mix of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Every time that she's going from one story to the next, it's into a championship in some way, and they can't just have her have a regular feud.
It just seems, maybe it's a reflection on. It's either the weakness of the women's division at the minute or the treatment of them. I can't put my finger on if it's the booking or the women at the minute.
Because I thought they were doing all right. I didn't think they were doing too bad. I'm glad the Iconics are back. The Bayley Sasha stuff is slowly building up nicely. I like the fact that Asuka is champion and she's working fine. Nia being back is fine, minus the injuries. And then suddenly Charlotte's just been like a spanner thrown into the works. It's just like, oh God, we're going back to status quo again. It's like she's just Charlotte wins lol. And it's just like, it's taking all the buzz out of the match for Asuka and Nia this weekend because clearly Asuka's going to win no problem whatsoever. And then it's going to go straight into the program with Charlotte where Charlotte will probably pick up the win at SummerSlam.
It's an unfortunate thing of, with the men's roster, I think athletically, it's some of the best roster they've had in years. Character-wise, they obviously all need work. Well, not all of them, but a majority need work to get over. I'm not going to mention Lashley again, but I just did. But where with the women, as far as a standout wrestler or character, the only two that really stood out was Charlotte and Becky for a long time. Asuka kind of got lost in the mix for a while, even though she was women's tag champ. Bayley's there, and Bayley's reign as SmackDown Women's Championship is good, but again, it's kind of like just there again.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sasha's just kind of being her cheerleader at the minute, and Alexa Bliss is kind of faded back into the background where she was white hot a couple of years
Well, this
ago.
is why I'm thinking now they don't have the titles on them, that they can break them up and she can go back to a singles competitor because she's really good. And again, I hope they do that.
Agree. And again, unfortunately in NXT, maybe like Rhea Ripley and Io, there's not many women from the NXT division I'd be excited to see get called up.
I mean, quite like Mia Yim and Blackheart as well. I'm also kind of annoyed with like Bianca Belair. It's just she's disappeared from NXT. She's gone to Raw for her husband, and she hasn't really done anything of note since.
Yeah, it would make sense. I'm not saying we should forget about Charlotte altogether, because we've said she's a great athlete.
No, she is. She's amazing. It's just, again, she's being rammed down your throats every single time, and it's starting to get annoying.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where either they don't even know they're doing it, or they're obviously doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we're going to build this star. Here you go. Here's the championships. You're in the main events now. But instead of it being a build-up to, I'm going to be the next big thing, it's almost like we're going to build you up, and then when you reach the top, we're going to feed you to Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anything, she's becoming almost, not in size or anything like that, but she's becoming the Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, exactly. She is becoming a Lesnar. Where it's just like, oh, she's back, she needs someone to fight, get someone with a championship, put the championship on her. So like I said, but back to the original question, do you think the LBRY is off on the push, or do you think she's just going to be continued to be pushed?
I genuinely, if the rumour is still true that they're going to make her a 16-time champ, I think she's going to be pushed until she gets all those championships under her belt.
Right.
Unless... she's dependable.
No, I'm not saying she's not, and again, she's a great wrestler. It's not like I'm bored watching her. I think she's amazing, and I don't mind her as a heel. I think she's a reasonable heel character. It's just you need to keep things fresh. You can't just keep going back to the same playbook all the time, because eventually people will turn on her, like we did with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is a good athlete. He's not amazing on the mic, but he's getting better. But we hated him so much because he was constantly being rammed down our throats. The only time we generally started to enjoy him is, unfortunately, when he ended up getting cancer and having to go away. We instantly turned him into this thing that we related to, because he's going through this real life thing, and it's terrible that something so awful that happened to a person is what made him go over. But you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, it's not like I want something like that to happen to Charlotte, not at all. It's just I don't want it to get to a point where every time that Charlotte's on a wrestling match, I'm just like, ugh. I don't want that to happen, because I like her. But I'm starting to get to that point where I'm just like, Charlotte again.
The fine line of booking, which is so difficult to do, to the point that it rarely ever happens, is having a match where you can put someone over without burying the loser. And with Charlotte, it always seems like when she does lose, it's still not putting that other person over. And I can't put my finger on why. The only time it ever really happened was with Becky, but that was because of the fan reaction to when Becky turned heel.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's always been, well, Charlotte's lost, but she'll bounce back.
Yeah.
Because it's WWE, and they love her.
Yeah.
And some of their reasons should be that her in-ring talent and her mic work, and all that. But a big part of it is because of her family name, and you can't escape that.
No, you can't. No, absolutely not.
So, I don't think the push of Charlotte Flair is going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Is it me?
Yes, it is you.
I'm going to use a huge example here, which I think we can run around. Back in, what year was it? 2015, the infamous Royal Rumble match where Roman Reigns won it.
Yeah.
And I was first going to ask why didn't it work. We all know why it didn't work.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted Daniel Bryan, and they just didn't strike while the iron's hot. It's one of the reasons why Punk walked. Was that year? No, that was last year.
No. That was the year that Punk was. That was the last match Punk ever had. Was that Rumble match?
That was 2014, wasn't it? Because he wasn't at WrestleMania 30.
Oh yeah, big pardon. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So, but and I think it was a podcast with Triple H. They interviewed him about that. Of like, why didn't you go with Daniel Bryan? Blah 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 blah. And he had his reasons. But he said, look, when we went up to Roman and said, you're going to win the Royal Rumble. what else is he going to say? He's going to say, "Oh, thank you very much," and because if I don't know about you, but if you get that opportunity in your career, when someone comes up to you, and go, "You're going to win the Rumble, you're going to be champion, you're going to headline WrestleMania," of course you're going to want to take it.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you think there has to be a choice now in whoever's head to go, when they come up to you and go, "We're going to give you this opportunity," should you grab it with both hands or go, "Thank you, but I don't think this is going to work for such and such a reason"? Because if Roman knew he was going to get booed like that the way he did, I don't think he would have took it.
No, because I don't think he was going to get booed. I thought that because he was doing all right. He was, that big win he had from Randy Orton previously, and he was doing well, and he was one of the contenders to win it. But obviously, it was down to Bryan that year. We definitely wanted it; it didn't happen. But yeah, it's a difficult thing to think of. Really, it's just because it depends on how high up you are. Because if you were a Stone Cold back in his prime, and I said I don't agree with that, then he'll have a bit of pulling power for them to change it. But if it was Reigns and he said, "Right, you're going to win the Rumble, you're going to Mania, blah, blah, blah," if he had thought to himself, "I don't think this is the right time," and he said, "I don't think this is the right time for me, it should be this person," the chances are Vince will probably go, "Well, tough, this is what's happening." And you have to work with it. You have to work with what your boss tells you to do. And so I don't think you really get a choice in it, really, unless you're so high up on the cut, high up in the roster, like a Taker or something like that, where you get a bit of buying power. Everybody else, it's you do as you're told. Even if you don't like it, tough shit, you're doing as you're told.
Well, yeah, it is if the boss says do it, but again, Roman, I don't think would have known he'd get the reaction he did. I mean, even when The Rock came out and stuff.
Honestly, Rock's face is still burned into the back of my brain. Just looking at him, pointing to Reigns with this confusion going, "Why don't you like him? It's obvious why."
I mean, do you generally think it was... I think that might have been the start of the downfall of Roman Reigns. But do you think it was because the fans wanted Daniel Bryan, or at that point do you think they were just sick and tired of Roman Reigns getting pushed?
I think it was a mixture of both. Because Reigns was starting to get pushed, but it wasn't too much yet. But people could start to see, right, he's getting pushed a little bit too much here. But we'll see how it goes. And then when this happened, Bryan getting eliminated really early, because apparently the reason they did that is because Vince said, "Well, if we eliminate him early, they'll be over it by the time Reigns comes out, and they'll still cheer him," which didn't happen. So I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put myself in that position without knowing what the reaction of the crowd would be towards me personally. But if it was something like if I was a character that was getting a push, so to speak, but I could hear either mixed reactions or more boos than cheers when I'm meant to be a good guy, I'm not going to let it fall on deaf ears. I'm going to be aware of it. I'm not going to bury my head and sound like Vince did. But obviously, like you said, keep your head down, keep going to work. But if there was at that point someone on the roster like a Johnny Gargano or something, where every city they went in, he was white hot, and he's like, "This is obviously the guy," and they came up to me and said, "You're going to win the Rumble, you eliminated Johnny Gargano last," there'd be a huge part of me going, "Look, thank you so much for the honour of winning the Rumble, going to Mania, but I'm not the guy for this right now. Johnny is." It's really hard to separate what's great for you personally to what should be best for the business.
But it also affects you in the long run as well, like it did with Reigns. It stunted his push the way they wanted it, so they had to change things. You can always voice your opinion of what you think should happen, but you can't go up to Vince or any of the writers and tell them, "I don't want this." You can just say to them, "I don't think it's the right call. I think it should be this person." But I don't think they'll ever have enough pulling power to go up and demand, "I don't want this."
It'd never be a demand. Like we said, it'll always be, "Can we talk about this? Can we debate this?"
Yeah.
And maybe we can come to an arrangement. But again, I'd walk into that office going, "I want to talk about this, but obviously you have the final word because you're the boss."
Yeah.
Even though a part of me would like to say, "Look, okay, I'll do what you say, but I want the right to say I told you so when this blows up in your face." Because still baffles me to this day is they heard the reaction of what happened with Roman Reigns, and then the following pay-per-view at Fastlane, it was Reigns Bryan for the main event spot, and they still went with Reigns.
Yeah.
Like, you had a chance to correct your mistake. I don't get what you thought was going to happen with Reigns winning again. I don't know if
what they were
like, be more over.
What they were hoping, what they were hoping with, but you're covering your mic a little bit again, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
What they were hoping is that they thought, because we love Bryan so much, if he puts Reigns over and shake his hand at the end, which I think he did, that we're going to accept Reigns more because Bryan has accepted Reigns more. But he doesn't realise how smart the fans are to go, well, no, you've just told Bryan to do that and he doesn't have a say in it. You've told him he has to go out and do that. So it's not a case of Bryan's going, I want this match to put Reigns over to mend the problem. He's been told to go out and wrestle Reigns, so he's going to go and do it.
It's once again, even if it was up to Bryan, if Bryan did that off his own head, it's still a kind of like, look, we get you respect him and maybe you do think he's ready. But once again, we're not just going to follow suit. We're telling you what we want.
Yeah.
Again, Reigns could have done everything right. He could have, we could have looked back and gone, well, he's been working his ass off and he's earned it and stuff. But the fact at that time was Bryan was the one that was white hot and had the crowd behind him. And so Reigns could have been, this isn't the case. Reigns could have been a much better wrestler than Daniel Bryan. But if Bryan was the one that's over, that's the thing that matters.
Yeah. Exactly, like we talked about previously.
That.
We've talked about it previously. Character is more important than skill, because if you're not over, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was never a case of if they'd gone with Bryan, it would have been a yes, thank you, we got Bryan. Sorry about that, Roman, but you'll get your opportunity.
Yeah, is it not like he wouldn't have got an opportunity? He would have got an opportunity, because if they'd have built him correctly, he would have definitely got that. But Vince just can't see that far into the future. He thinks, I've got to do it now, quickly.
Yeah, it's again, timing. If Bryan had got his thing, we would have had a year, maybe two. Well, no one saw the injury coming, but we would have had a year, maybe two, of Bryan on top, and the fans at that point would go, right, that was fun. Let's get something new, which might have been Roman's time, and Roman might have become the next John Cena, which they're still trying to push, I still believe. But the fact that they struck early now meant, like you said, it threw him straight into a rut of like, no, fuck you, you weren't ready, we're not happy about this. We know it's nothing to do with you, Roman, personally, it's the writers, but now, unfortunately, you're like the mascot of the stuff we don't want.
Yeah, absolutely. So he had to bear the brunt.
Yeah, you're the hate rod.
Yeah.
We boo you. Well, we boo them through you.
Through you, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
it was unfortunate for Roman, but it was bad booking.
Yeah. Right, so my final question to you. I've got a contingency for this question. All titles out of the question for this.
Okay.
Who would you like to see Lesnar take on when he returns? Because there's strong rumours that he's coming back soon. I imagine they're probably billing him for SummerSlam. If we're talking honestly, I think he's probably going to take the Universal Championship from Strowman or something like that. Because they can't not have him with a title. But all titles aside, who would you have him in a match with at SummerSlam?
So I can still pick anybody, but it'd just be like a non-title.
Yeah,
thing.
anybody that doesn't have a title.
Okay, because in my head, I genuinely actually think it's going to be, if we were going to count belts, I still think it's going to be Drew Lesnar too.
Yeah, but the thing is, how do you get Drew to win again? They're not going to do that, are they? Because they do 50-50 booking all the time, which means Drew might lose, and I don't want that.
Or it could be a no contest, one of them things. You
maybe.
Don't know. But, as far as if it was a non-championship match... let me think. I'm trying to think who's on the current roster at the minute and still looking quite formidable.
While Josh is having to think about that, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh, okay. I think I'll go with Lashley.
Okay, yeah.
And the fact that they've now thrown Lashley in the title picture, it's like he may not be a main event level yet,
but it's in the main event spotlight.
But it's also the match that a lot of people want as well. And they've not been doing a terrible job at repackaging him with MVP. It could be better, but it's better than the Lana shit that was happening before. At least this is going in the right direction.
I think it's hopefully in someone's head it's like, right, with Lashley Drew at Backlash, I still really want Drew to win. I hope he does.
He will.
If Lashley still kicks his ass all around that ring, 75% dominance by Lashley, but still loses, people are going to be coming out of that match going, Lesnar didn't even manhandle Drew like that at Mania. Holy shit, Lashley's a monster. And then the cogs will start turning their head of well, what can Lashley do against Lesnar if he can do that to Drew?
Yeah.
And there's the build-up of holy shit, these two are going to collide now.
Yeah, and you've got MVP to kind of be the spokesperson of that. As we may not have been able to get the gold, but you saw what Lashley was capable of. And then you can start building towards that to say that Lesnar didn't dominate Drew that much, and then Lesnar can come back being pissed off and Heyman saying, how dare you talk about Lesnar, get his words out of your mouth, blah, blah, blah. And they can build a story from there of who is generally the better big guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of early days to call MVP a good or bad manager. But from his early years back in 2005 when he was wrestling, I always thought he was pretty good on the mic. So with that build-up, with having MVP represent Lashley and Heyman represent Lesnar, the war words those two could have could be great.
Yeah.
To the point they could be the only ones that talk, and every time in an arena, whether it's ramp to ring or they're both in the ring, Lashley and Lesnar say nothing to the audience, to each other, and just every time just stare each other down, not just a cold stare with no blinks of when we clash, I'm going to rip your head off.
Yeah, make it like a big fight feel.
Yeah. It's. I really hope. Don't get me wrong. When there's that big fight feel, and then on Raw or wherever they clash, and the roster have to come and separate them, it's cool, but it's kind of been overdone.
Yeah, don't do that again. Yeah, it seems to be the thing when it's big guy versus big guy. They have to have loads of people pulling them apart. I think it should be a cheap shot from Lashley to Lesnar, and then he scurries off, and then that's all you're going to get. You're going to get one hit or one spear, and that's all you'll get.
But that works. I mean, it worked with Orton Lesnar. I think Orton hit one RKO, and Lesnar one F5.
More than enough.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's no contact altogether, to the point of you've been building this up for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they're not actually going to physically get into contact with each other till the night of the fight. And that anticipation there of I've been waiting for these guys just to do something to each other, and here we are. If they can execute it correctly, it will work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think Lashley's a nice safe bet.
Yeah. Sorry, I put the podcast people can't see, but I put the phone down so I got tired.
I've got a kind of looking up from my grave kind of picture. He's looking down. Oh, God. I'm batting a cave.
My last one.
Yeah, so the last question of the podcast from you to me.
Okay. I've already asked you back in the past, if you could change one thing about WWE, what would it be? And you just said Vince.
It's most people's answers these days.
Yeah, it's fair enough. But if Vince, in this fantasy world, if Vince left and you were the guy to take over the company, right? What's the one thing, what's the first thing you change, and what's the one thing you keep the same?
Oh, keeping the same. I mean, oh God, that's hard. One thing I would change is I would make sure that Triple H is more in charge overall, right? Because he's so good with NXT. I think it's definitely the way it should go. If I was in charge, I'd say that right, I'm going to have you running Raw and SmackDown and all that kind of stuff. Another thing I would change as well: get rid of the writers.
Right,
and not necessarily all of them, but the majority of them. We don't need that many writers. The people, the characters, the performers know their characters. They know what's right for them and what's wrong for them. You need to let them stretch their muscles, their intellectual muscles, and what they can write and what they can bring to the table. If it doesn't work, bring some writers in. But I think that needs to be freshened up, where people have more creative control over their characters. So those are the things I would change. Keeping the same, that's really difficult to answer. Like, what would you keep the same? Because there's so much shit failing all the time in this promotion. It's hard.
I mean, would you keep the pay-per-view schedule the same, or would you still say
no? Even that I change. I have less pay-per-views because we don't need that many pay-per-views. We really don't. Keep the same. Oh God! Again, I was thinking about like time, like 3 hours of Raw, but no, I was like, no, I'd get that down to 2 hours as well.
Well, would you keep SmackDown the same then?
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep SmackDown the same. SmackDown seems to be fine. Like, it's 2 hours long. It's more than enough. I would keep the production the same. That's my main thing. Like the way that things are all set up, you know, whenever they use fireworks and pyro and smoke and all stuff, that kind of production stuff, things like their promo packages, all that kind of stuff. That's all great. That all works fine. It always has done. It's gone better and better as the years have gone on because you've got more money to put into it. That all works perfectly. It's just matches and storylines that fall apart. So the thing I would keep the same is production. That all works perfectly fine. Their promo packages they're second to none with most things. That's what I keep the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the WWE's strongest points has always been those video packages for whether it be for a rivalry or an upcoming show or even in the Hall of Fame. Always knock it out the park.
100%.
I don't know who picks the songs for them, but they always nail it.
Yeah, the guy that makes all the intro songs for people, I keep him as well because he seems to have a real good knack of just having a rough idea of what the character is and then coughing up a song, and it works 99% of the time. It works.
I think the last 2 years have had a new guy, but the original guy, his name is Jim Johnson. He did like Austin's theme music and The Rock and all that, Lesnar's. He's left. And I was really gutted when he left because, like, dude, you were like the soundtrack to my childhood.
Like he came up with Ambrose and Rollins as well when they split from the Shield. I was like, they're both awesome tracks. I think he came up with KOs as well, didn't he?
Possibly. He allegedly his tactic was, I don't want to see the guy or whatever. Just tell me the kind of character he is, and I'll go from there.
And that shows how great he is. Like, he doesn't need to know what kind of music they're into, what kind of a character, like, you know, what kind of person they are. He just needs a few bullet points, and he's able to come with that kind of stuff. It's incredible. Yeah, why would you get rid of someone like that?
He's the John Williams of wrestling.
100%. That is a good way to put it. 100%.
Right. If I was going to keep anything the same, again, we'll go with two each. I was going to go with one, but whatever. NXT, keep the same.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of that, but I thought, well, that's just a given, isn't it? Why would you need to change that?
Exactly. So keep it the same. And even though I wouldn't mind it, going back to another podcast question we had, even though I wouldn't mind it going to 2 nights, just keep WrestleMania the same. Because WrestleMania's always just been, it hasn't always knocked out the park, but it's always...
It's felt big. It's always felt big, yeah.
Yeah, it's and even though it hasn't knocked out the park to some sort of degree, it's always managed to 99% of the time deliver.
Yeah.
So Mania is good. To change, definitely the length of Raw. Again, I know that comes down to contracts with TV stations and stuff, but when you can, change it. And maybe not change it from PG to TV-14, but maybe the PG-13 rating, somewhere in between.
So you can have a bit more edginess.
Yeah, so it's still, to a degree, family-friendly, but for those characters that are struggling, you still give them a little bit more elbow room to open up. I mean, I suppose it could be a different question altogether of, can you expand on the violence as far as blood and extremeness and all that kind of stuff? But it just gives everybody a little bit more freedom when the rating goes up.
Yeah, there's a bit more wiggle room there.
Yeah.
There's a few more swear words you can chuck in and that kind of stuff. And that's not all it's about. It's just it kind of helps add a bit more flavour to a match if you can call someone a bastard. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't go mad on it because
No, don't say son of a bitch 5 times in a promo. No, but sometimes let it go.
The way they did it at Mania was great because I think they did it a couple of times, but I think the first time was the Shayna Becky video package.
No, we're
as
fine.
soon as that ended with "I'm going to kick the shit out of you," I was like, "Oh, right,
yeah.
okay, I'm more invested in this now." In a weird, because they don't usually swear, it's one of them. Right, this is a fight. This is they're really going balls to the walls with this, and because if Shayna just went, "Yeah, I'm going to kick the shit out of you," you'd be like, "Whoa, fucking hell." If they did that for every other match on the card, you'd just be like, well, you've overdone it now.
Again, you overexpose it.
Yeah. Again, it's about execution and timing and where it needs to be. So, I think I'll go with the rating and the length
Fair enough.
shows. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, is it? So,
yes.
It's another one done and dusted. We got Backlash on Sunday, so I imagine Monday we'll do them. I think.
I've took the day off because of this little bubble thing. I managed to create a bubble between my household and my mum's, so my brother's able to come round Sunday night to watch Backlash. So all is good.
Cool.
So,
I mean, so I imagine we'll probably review it on Monday. I'm hoping to have it up on the Tuesday. I might be able to get it up on Monday night, but let's keep a lookout for it either way because it will be there. And then we'll probably have another one of these as well later in the week.
Yes, isn't it a joyous occasion?
Yeah, well, it's the only time I see you. It's literally just...
We don't just do the podcast and hang up. We do catch up before.
Yeah, we do catch up before and after. Yeah, it's not like, the podcast's over, fuck you, see you next week.
Yeah, we're not just colleagues.
No, but this is kind of like our catch-up as well as being able to talk about wrestling for a while, because this is what we normally do when we're in the pub, is catching up on wrestling to the hatred of other people that don't give a shit about wrestling.
I would say other halves, but just your other half.
Well, my missus doesn't mind so much, but her best friend hates it. As soon as she hears WWE, she goes, "Oh, for God's sake!" It's just like, but I've got to get it out of the way. We haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but then if we went, all right, we go, let's talk about Star Wars. It's the same.
Yeah, it's just like, I can't win. Just like, what do you want me to talk about? Marilyn Manson all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yes.
So subscribe. We ranted a little bit. Sorry about that. So subscribe. We'll be back soon for Backlash.
Yes.
Bye.